Okay, let's talk about wound management. Specifically, let's talk about irrigating wounds. If you cut yourself while you're paddling, then you are at risk of developing a bacterial infection of that wound. A lot of the places that we paddle aren't the cleanest, and there's a lot of controversy that exists on should we delay closing the wound or should it be closed on the river. And I'm not going to get into that right now, but regardless of what you choose to do, it is extremely important that you properly irrigate that wound, even if you are not closing it. All right, if you're closing that wound, then it is extremely important that you irrigate it. But the bottom line up front version is always irrigate a wound, and try to keep it from getting contaminated again in the water. So try not to do a lot of play boating on your way down the river if you sustain an injury. So how do we manage wounds? Well, so there are a variety of different ways to irrigate to clean wounds to try to keep them from getting infected. And a lot of people use syringes, but I found that using a syringe, it's kind of it won't deliver a lot of volume. All right, unless you want to carry a large syringe, which I'm not going to carry a large syringe on the water. Because I'm going to have to keep pulling that out, irrigating the wound, pulling up some water, irrigating the wound, pulling up water, irrigating the wound. It's just going to take a long time. So what I've found to be most useful is just any kind of relatively clean plastic bag. You can even keep an extra plastic bag, but this is what I keep some of my belongings in my dry bag, or I keep it in the pocket of my PFD. So what are we going to irrigate with? Well, a lot of people would say, well, we will irrigate with peroxide or rubbing alcohol. Well, rubbing alcohol is really going to burn. It's going to hurt. And peroxide isn't helpful. It's actually harmful to the tissues to use peroxide in wounds. And it can kill healthy tissue. And we don't want that. All you need is drinking water. So if it's clean enough to drink, then it's clean enough to irrigate your wound. So how am I going to irrigate this wound? Well, I'm going to, of course, remove the contents, and I can fill this full of water, seal it off, or just hold the top of it, and I can make a little pinhole in the bag and squeeze it directly into the wound, onto the wound, to try to flush out any bacteria. Now, if there's obvious decontaminant, so if there's like soil or dirt or leaves or anything in that wound, then you want to get it out. You kind of want to irrigate that out. Now, what can you do to the wound to prevent contamination or to promote healing afterwards? Just old-fashioned triple antibiotic ointment. It's at least not going to hurt. It might not be extremely helpful if you irrigate it properly, but it's not going to hurt. So now, what about small wounds? So if they're superficial, they probably don't benefit from irrigating. So some friends will walk up to me with superficial cuts, and they're like, what should I do for this? And I'm like, nothing, just leave it alone. Maybe put a Band-Aid on it or something. But I hope that was helpful. So I want to reiterate that you want to irrigate your wound with approximately 1 liter of fluid. Now, if I have a wound that's in a, quote, dirty area of the body, so if it's in the groin, the axilla or something, I might irrigate that a little more because there's a high bacterial count in those parts of the body. But that's all I've got for now, and I hope that you all found this useful. See ya.